8 episodes of frameworks and principles and action items. Today we throw the textbook out.
Today we go to the actual stories. Wow.
Alexis and I have been talking about this episode since before we recorded episode 1. The client moments that stayed with her, the decisions she watched happen and still thinks about, the outcomes that proved everything or broke the rule entirely. All names and identifying details are changed, but the situations are real. And so are the lessons.
The only lessons that actually stick are the ones attached to a face. Those faces are lessons.
Welcome back. I am Natalie Francine.
And I'm Alexis Nassif. These stories are for you.
First story, Alexis. Break us in.
Margaret lost her husband after 40 years of marriage. He had built a significant portfolio for the family home, 3 rental properties, a small commercial building. She was a beneficiary of everything. Margaret was not unsophisticated. Graduate degree, professional career, sharp mind, but real estate had been his domain. And when he died, she found herself holding a portfolio she had lived alongside but never managed.
That gap, living alongside wealth without being included in managing it, is exactly what we've been talking about all season. And it's incredibly common.
A family friend, someone her husband had known for years, someone she trusted completely, offered to help, suggested she consolidate the properties into an LLC that he would manage. She agreed. 2 years later, 2 properties refinanced to maximum leverage, rental income misreported, Margaret's equity systematically extracted. By the time the fraud was fully documented, over $1 million was gone.
$1 million built over 40 years, gone in 2.
2 lessons. First, trust is not a substitute for documentation. Every professional relationship, especially with people you have known for years, requires clear written agreements and an independent advisor reviewing the work. Second, vulnerability is visible. Predatory people specifically seek out newly widowed, newly divorced, newly inherited clients. They look for emotional overwhelm combined with financial unfamiliarity. Margaret was both. She was targeted deliberately.
I have my own version of this. Not fraud, but the same widow, the same vulnerability. A client, I'll call her Carolyn, lost her husband and within 3 months had 3 separate advisors reach out offering to help manage the estate. All through social connections, all presenting as old friends doing a favor. Not one of them disclosed their financial interest up front. Carolyn came to me before she signed anything with any of them. We walked through each relationship actually meant financially. 2 were legitimate, if overpriced. 1 was clearly predatory. She said to me afterward, I would have said yes to all 3. I didn't know how to say no to the people I knew. That sentence, that is the vulnerability they count on.
Build the independent team before you need it, so it's there when the crisis comes.
Before, not during the crisis. We told Diana's story in episode 6, but I want to revisit it here because in the context of patterns, she is the pattern.
20-year marriage, home worth $1.2 million, $800,000 in equity. She fought to keep it. One, within 18 months, she couldn't carry it. Sold 2 years after the divorce for less than she'd simply split the proceeds from the first time. She should have done that.
The thing that always gets me about Diana's story is how avoidable it was. One conversation with a mortgage professional before the negotiation began would have revealed the carrying problem. 1 hour. But she was making the decision from grief, from the desperate need for stability in a moment when everything else was falling apart. And nobody in her professional circle, not the divorce attorney, not the real estate agent, ran the actual post-divorce financial model for her.
She needed 2 professionals. She had one.
And the one she had was excellent at their specific job and completely blind to the adjacent problem. That is not incompetence. That is scope, which is why the team matters. The people working together, each covering the ground the others cannot see.
3 siblings, 2 properties, family home, lake home. Will divided everything equally. No trust, no instruction for what to do if they disagreed. Legal dispute, 2.5 years. Outcome, dock deteriorated and needed full replacement, $90,000 worth. Legal fees, over $90,000 also. The caregiving sibling received equal distribution and left not speaking to any of the siblings after that.
They lost the money, the lake house, and they lost each other for an estate that could have been resolved in 90 days. What was the actual fight about?
It was never about the property. It was about the decades of family dynamics landing in one place at the worst possible moment. The caregiving sibling felt unseen. The other siblings felt that the equal meant equal. Nobody was wrong, but everybody was having the real conversation either.
The property was the arena. The grievance was older than the property. And this is the thing I want every listener to hear. The legal proceeding does not resolve the underlying grievance. It just adds cost and time and legal fees to it. The only thing that resolves underlying grievance is the conversation, which again has to happen before the death, not after. Okay, Alexis, first building story.
Rosa, public school teacher, $64,000 a year, came to me in her early 30s wanting to buy her first investment property. 2 other agents had told her to wait. Her family thought it was too complicated. Her colleagues thought she was overextended.
Let me guess, Lex, you disagreed.
We found a duplex, strong rental demand. Rosa would live in one unit, rent the other. Rental income would cover most of the mortgage. She put down 8% and kept the rest in reserves. She was terrified the morning we closed. She almost didn't sign.
Poor Rosa. What got Rosa across the line?
I asked her what she was actually afraid of. She said, "I'm afraid I'll lose everything." I said, "You have reserves. You have a tenant covering most of your mortgage. The worst case is you sell and come out roughly even. The best case is you build a foundation your family doesn't have." She signed.
Okay, and then?
Second property, 4 years later. Third, 6 years after that. She retired at 62, Rental income from the portfolio exceeds her teaching salary. Her children will inherit 4 properties held in trust that she established at 55. She didn't start with capital. She started with a decision.
And a professional who asked her what she was actually afraid of instead of just processing the paperwork. That matters. That is the 20-year question in action, not at the beginning of a conversation, but in the middle of a crisis of nerve. I want to put one of our stories in here because I think it belongs in this episode. Alexis was representing a seller in a probate proceeding. 3 heirs, relatively amicable, a state attorney involved. Midway through the sale, we discovered a cloud on the title, a lien from a previous transaction. It was small, under $15,000, but it was enough to complicate the closing. We had 2 options: disclose it immediately and slow the process down, or hope it surfaces in the title search at the last minute when there's more pressure to just resolve it quickly.
So what did you do now? What did we do, I
So
should say?
we disclosed it immediately. We called the estate attorney, called all 3 heirs, walked everyone through what it meant and what remediation would cost. One heir was furious, felt the delay was unnecessary, pushed back hard. There was a real moment where we felt the pressure to fold, to just agree and move on. We held our position, told him we resolve it now, transparently, with everyone's informed consent, or we find out about it in the closing when the buyers can walk and the estate has no leverage. He backed down. We resolved the lien. Closing happened 10 days later. The estate lost nothing. 3 months later, the same heir called me. His mother had passed away and he needed to sell her property. He had 3 agents to choose from, and he called us.
The moment where holding your position feels most uncomfortable is almost always the moment where it matters most.
This is the luxury principle from episode 3.
That's right.
Lived in an actual transaction. Accountability means owning the outcome even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient.
Helen, 61, recent widow, 1 rental property. Her financial advisor told her to sell simply. Take the cash, invest it in something easier. She called me. I asked her the 20-year question. She said, I want income in retirement. I don't want to depend on anyone. The rental property was cash flow positive, no mortgage, strong demand. I told her the property is already doing exactly what you said you want. Why would you trade that for a one-time certainty?
Well, I don't remember, Alexis. What did she do?
She kept it. Hired a property manager. She is 74 now. The rental income exceeds her salary when she retired. She told me 3 years ago, every financial person in my life told me to sell. You were the only one who asked me what I actually needed.
That question, what does this asset need to do for you, is the most important question in this work. And it is almost never asked. The financial advisor gave her the advice that was convenient for his recommendation. Her patience gave her the outcome that was right for her life. That is the female advantage from episode 5 in a real story. 6 stories, 3 of loss, 3 of building. What do the lost stories have in common?
Isolation, artificial urgency, emotion driving the financial decision in the worst possible moment the financial decision needed to be made.
And building stories.
Long horizon, clear intention, the right support.
That is the show. Everything we've built this season, the market cycle framework, the luxury principles, the wealth building mechanics, the probate and divorce guidance, all of it is in service of loss of three things: long horizon, clear intention, the right support.
And the women in the building stories did not have more advantages than women in the lost stories. They had the question and a professional working specifically for their answer. Both of those things are available to every person listening right now.
That is the point of this show. That has always been the point. Next week, our season finale: vision, legacy, and what comes next for every woman who has listened to this season and is ready for what she came here for. I am Natalie Francine.
And I'm Alexis Nassif. Next week, I get to say something I have been wanting to say for 45 years. I'll see you then.
This is
Wealth, War, and Real Estate. See you next week. Or next season. No, next week.
Next week.
I know. 10. Episode 10. I hope you watch.
Thank you for joining.
See you later.